I now call the May 4th, 2020 regular meeting of the Riverton City Council to order at 7 p.m. Would Council Member Borders lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and the invocation will be given by Councilman Bailey.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our dearest Heavenly Father, thank you for the many blessings that we enjoy, especially living here in this wonderful town of Riverton. Please bless us in all that we do tonight, that we will take your guidance and do what's best for the city of Riverton and all of its residents. Please bless all of the people that work every day to keep us, law enforcement, EMTs, firemen, and all of our special first responders. Please keep them safe as they do their duty in keeping us safe. We ask that you please be with us tonight in the decisions that we make the best ones for the city of Riverton and its residents. And we ask all of these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Would the city clerk please conduct a roll call?
Yes, Your Honor. Councilwoman Carla Borders.
Here.
Councilman Lindsay Cox.
Here.
Councilman Mike Bailey.
Here.
Councilman Kyle Larson.
Here.
Councilwoman Christy Salisbury.
Here.
Mayor Richard Gard.
Here. I declare a quorum is present. The chair would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Councilwoman Borders has a motion. Councilman Bailey has a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Communication from the floor, citizens' comments. Anyone in the audience wishing to address the council regarding an item that is scheduled for a public hearing will be given the opportunity to speak during that public hearing. Anyone wishing to address the council on any other may speak now. I would ask those individuals wishing to address the council at this time to approach the podium and identify yourself for the record. Seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda items. Would the city clerk please read the consent agenda items by title only?
Yes, Your Honor. Approval of the minutes, April 20th, 2021, regular council meeting. Approval of the minutes, May 4th, 2021, Finance Committee meeting. And approval of the Finance Committee recommendations for May 4th, 2021.
Thank you. Are there any further items requiring discussion?
Your Honor, the Finance Committee met earlier this evening and passed the consideration of claims to be paid in the amount of $212,344.04, manual check in the amount of $30, payroll and liabilities for April 23rd, 2021 in the amount of $459,600.68, for the total of $671,974.72.
Thank you. The chair would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda items.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Bailey has the motion. Carla, was that you? Yes. Councilwoman Borders has the second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passed. Introduction and oath of office for the Riverton Police Department and personnel. Police Chief's report, please.
Your Honor, thank you very much. Your Honor, Council, I would like to present our new officer. So JJ and Hannah, please come up. This one's pretty special for me because him and my son Taylor have been best friends for years. JJ kind of grew up at my house, so this one's a little bit more special than normal. Okay, so this is JJ Pingetzer. He was born and raised in Riverton. Well, he's born in Lander, but raised in Riverton, out on Bass Lake Road. He's lived in the same house his whole life. Graduated from Shoshone in 2017, and this is his wife, Hannah. So this is JJ Pingetzer.
Nice to meet you guys.
Your Honor, if you would come down and swear him in, please, that would be fantastic.
I was hoping for a longer introduction.
I can sit up here and talk for 2 hours on JJ if you guys want me to. That would not be a problem at all. Do you want me to?
I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Wyoming, that I have not knowingly violated any law related to my election or appointment, or caused it to be done by others. And that I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Ernie reminds me that you need to be given your badge. Maybe we'll do that, okay? Hope she doesn't poke you.
I know.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
So now, do you want me to tell you a bunch of stories about JJ?
We'd like to hear a few. Give us some information in case we get picked up. We're now at item 10, consideration of ordinance number 21-003, third and final reading, annexation of various parcels to the Riverton corporate boundaries. Would the city clerk please read the ordinance number 21-003 by title only?
Yes, Your Honor. Proposed ordinance number 21-003 on third and final reading. An ordinance annexing and zoning various properties, Fremont County, Wyoming, not previously annexed to the city of Riverton, and repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict therewith and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. The chair would entertain a motion to adopt ordinance number 21-003 on third reading.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Larson has a motion. Lindsay. And Councilwoman Cox has a second. Would the city clerk please conduct a roll call vote?
Yes, Your Honor. Councilwoman Carla Borders.
Aye.
Councilwoman Lindsay Cox.
Aye.
Councilman Mike Bailey.
Aye.
Councilman Kyle Larson.
Yes.
Councilwoman Christy Salisbury.
Aye.
Mayor Richard Gard.
Yes. Motion passes. Consideration of ordinance number 21-004, third reading, adoption of the 2020 National Electric Code, the NEC-NFPA 70. Would the city clerk please read ordinance number 21-004 by title only?
Yes, Your Honor. Proposed ordinance number 21-004 on third and final reading. An ordinance amending Title 15, Building Construction, Chapter 15.04, Building Construction and Maintenance Codes, Section 15.04.010, Adoption, Applicability, Filing, Subsection Title A10 of the Riverton Municipal Code, and repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict therewith and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. The chair would entertain a motion to adopt ordinance number 21-004 on third reading.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Bailey has the motion. Councilwoman Cox has the second. Any discussion? Would the city clerk please conduct roll call voting?
Yes, Your Honor. Councilwoman Carla Borders.
Aye.
Councilwoman Lindsay Cox.
Aye.
Councilman Mike Bailey.
Aye.
Councilman Kyle Larson.
Aye.
Councilwoman Christy Salisbury.
Nay.
Mayor Richard Gard.
Nay. Motion passes. Public hearing and consideration of ordinance number 21-005, first reading, unauthorized use of motor vehicles. Police Chief's report, please.
Your Honor, thank you very much. Currently, citations for unauthorized use of a motor vehicle or car theft are written and processed through circuit court. The Riverton Police Department has worked over 30 stolen vehicles over the last year. And so we're asking that we adopt a new city ordinance so that we can start processing these through our municipal court. It will allow officers to issue citations through municipal court rather than through circuit court. The judge may issue a fine up to $750 for an unauthorized use of a motor vehicle. And this will help goal number 7 maintain financial stability for the city. Your Honor, I feel very strongly about this one. I feel that, especially now, because circuit court is not processing a lot of these crimes, I feel like going through city court would be a really good idea at this point.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Would the city clerk please read ordinance number 21-005 by title only?
Yes, Your Honor. Proposed ordinance number 21-005 on first reading. An ordinance amending Title 10, Vehicles and Traffic, Chapter 10.12, Additional Traffic Regulations, to establish Section 10.12.180, Unauthorized Use of a Motor Vehicle of the Riverton Municipal Code, and repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict therewith, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. The chair would entertain a motion to open a public hearing.
So moved. Second.
Councilwoman Salisbury has the motion. Councilwoman Borders has the second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. I now declare a public hearing open. The public hearing will be conducted in accordance with state statute and all applicable laws. I would ask those individuals wishing to address the council to approach the podium and identify yourself for the record. Seeing none, I would make the motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Councilwoman Borders has the motion. Councilman Bailey has the second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes. The chair would entertain a motion to adopt ordinance number 21-005 on first reading.
So moved.
Second.
The motion is Councilman Larson's and the second is Councilwoman Borders. Any discussion?
Your Honor,
Please.
I'd like the chief to talk about, did you say 38 or 83?
30.
38 unauthorized. I mean, was it stolen or not? And, who in the blazes would ever use, well, I just returned it. Tell us about it.
Your Honor, so yes, they are stolen vehicles, and for whatever reason, our state statute and city ordinance does not cover stolen vehicles. So what they call it is unauthorized use of a motor vehicle, but they are stolen vehicles is what it is. We've had over 30 of them, probably actually since Christmas. I was just trying to be nice. And the frustrating thing is, because of COVID, the county right now is not jailing anybody that we catch doing this. So this is just kind of our way to try to help fix the problem if we can. So that's kind of the whole point of this going through city ordinance instead of going to the county, is hopefully we can fix this a little bit and start holding some of these people accountable for their actions.
Chief, what do we have to do to go to felony auto theft?
There isn't one.
There's no felony auto theft?
No.
This is it? This is it, right?
Right.
So this is about the best we can do, and the thing that I like about it is it puts it back in our municipal court that will take action, and our judge does a really good job, and we'll levy maximum that we can do. So I appreciate it.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Any other questions? Carly?
Your Honor, I just have a question for the chief. So what is the difference in punishment by switching it? If the county jail isn't taking inmates?
So I can tell you that last summer, we had a group of kids that we arrested probably 10 times each night, 10 times in a row, like once each night. The county attorneys, and I'm not dogging them, but the county attorneys' hands were tied. The jail wouldn't take them because of COVID. So we literally would keep them here for an hour and let them out, and then catch them again the next night stealing cars, and catch them again the next night stealing cars. And so it was just a revolving door, and that's kind of where we're at with it right now. So we're hoping that will help somewhat. You know, this certainly is not the end-all to fix-all, but we hope that it will help deter some of it until the county can get back on its feet and we can get rid of COVID and they'll start taking people again.
Appreciate it. Anybody else? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passed. Bid award for the Airport Gate Project, Public Works Director's report, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. As you remember, on February 16th, 2021, the council adopted Resolution 1427 to support a grant application to replace the existing 12-foot pivot gate that's located near the FBO building at Central Wyoming Regional Airport. The gate will be replaced with a 24-foot gate. The existing gate has reached its end of life. It's not big enough for the services we need. And there have been several times just this winter where staff has arrived in the morning to find that pivot gate open, which is a violation of our secure fence and our friendly antelope that live up on that hill. We don't want them meandering into the airfield. So that's what this project centers around. Aviation, the consulting firm for the airport, prepared specification and bid documents for the project. A request for bids was advertised 3 consecutive weeks in the Ranger and the Denver Daily Journal. 7 prime contractors registered as plan holders, and 1 bid was received and publicly opened on April 14th at 11 a.m. with the following result. It was from 71 Construction in the amount of $294,723. As you denote in your packet, this bid came in approximately 63% higher than the engineer's estimate. Line items significantly higher than the estimate include subgrade preparation, unclassified excavation, crushed aggregate base, 5-inch asphalt pavement, and the installation of temporary fencing. In light of the current bidding climate, unit costs for the project were determined to be reasonable. We've also worked with the FAA and WIDA on that to see what type of bids they've been receiving, and they have said that the bid price that we've received is consistent with what they're seeing in the region. We also had an opportunity to speak with 71 Construction to ask them if there was anything in our bid proposal or plans and specifications that may have caused the prices to increase or scared off other bidders. They did say that that was not the case outside of the typical federal requirements that are required of the airport. The American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 includes $8 billion in funds to be awarded for economic assistance directly to U.S. airports. As part of the relief funds, the Airport Improvement Program will be funded at 100%, meaning typically the state and the city provide a match to the AIP projects, and the upcoming fiscal year that will not be required because of the ARP funds. Staff, despite the overage over the engineer's estimate, recommends the City Council award the pivot gate replacement project to 71 Construction in the amount of $294,723, contingent on FAA and YDOT concurrence and available federal funding.
Thank you. The chair would entertain a motion to award the pivot gate replacement project to 71 Construction in the amount of $294,723.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Bailey has the motion. Councilman Larson has the second. Further discussion? Kyle?
Kyle, could you explain, I'm not very smart, how is it that we have an engineer that can miss this by 63%? How is that possible?
Your Honor, Councilman, thank you for the question. I think a lot of it has to do with the current bidding environment, and no one had any idea that the materials that we listed as being over were the current market price.
So it's like the sheeting that you're trying to buy now, and it's, used to be 13 and now it's 39, or at least it was last week. I don't know what it is this week. So it's just supply chain. Is there a possibility, I realize it's reached its terminal, can we postpone it for 1 year and see everything come back to normal and get it for 175?
Your Honor, Councilman, that is an option the council has. However, if we postpone it a year, we will not be able to utilize the ARP funding that would pay for it 100%. We would then be required to utilize our matching funds at that point.
And it'd be 175 and 3% of that and 5% of this, and it'd end up probably costing us $35,000. No, I mean from the city's standpoint versus zero.
Correct. You're right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mike?
And the bid may come in at $350 next year.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
I think that's a good analysis of how that works. I don't know that it's anybody's fault. That's why they call them engineers' estimates, that they're doing their very best to get the estimate. I would like them to be a little closer than 63%. It would just make it easier for the rest of us to swallow that. It is interesting that because of the situation we're in, that 100% funding for the project, so we don't have any cost to the city, doesn't necessarily make it any more palatable. It's still our federal dollars that we're putting in the till. So the chair would entertain a motion to award the pivot gate replacement. Well, I already have the motion. We're at discussion. Everybody done discussing? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Bid award for snow removal equipment, SRE Hangar Improvement Project. Public Works Director's report, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Much of the same background. This project was considered as part of Resolution 1428, and this centers on improvements to the orange hangar up at the airfield. We use that for storage for our operations. For example, our snow removal equipment and our mowing equipment. That building was built for aeronautical purposes, not for the storage of heavy trucks and equipment. So we're seeing some issues with the concrete floor there, and then the door of that building is reaching its end of life. Included in the project is also the replacement of one of the doors on the air rescue firefighter building as well. So that's what we packaged into the grant. Again, Aviation prepared plan specifications. It was advertised for 3 weeks, and bids were publicly opened at 1 p.m. April 14th with the following result. One bidder, it was from SDI, Schedule 1 in the amount of $389,475.50. Schedule 2, which is the ARF door, was in the amount of $9,804. The total bid amount from SDI was $399,279.50. Following the bid opening, Aviation and SDI entered into negotiations to see if there was any way to reduce costs on this project. SDI was able to reduce their bid result by $39,526.50. and that was on Schedule 1. So that reduced the total to $349,949. The revised bid from SDI is about 25% higher than the engineer's estimate. So we have a similar story to the action that you just took. Line items that significantly ran higher were, again, removal of concrete slab, subgrade preparation, unclassified excavation, crushed base, aggregate course, concrete pavement, and installation of temporary fence. So very similar line items were overrun on this bid, similar to the bid prior. We did the same type of investigation with the FAA, YDOT, and spoke with the contractor about their bid, and the situation still applies with the relief funds, and therefore we recommend the City Council award both Schedule 1 and Schedule 2 for this project in the amount of $359,753.
Thank you. The chair would entertain a motion to award the hangar improvement projects to SDI in the amount of $349,949 for Schedule 1 and $900,804 for Schedule 2.
No, 9,804, not 99.
You're correct. It's $9,804. How am I going to make any money if you're going to read the?
I don't know, but.
We're supposed to make a little money in politics here. If you can't keep reading the right numbers, we're not going to do it. Let me read that over. SDI in the amount of $349,949 for Schedule 1. And for Schedule 2, it is $9,804. Correct?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So moved.
So moved. Councilman Bailey has a motion.
Second.
Councilwoman Cox has a second. Further discussion?
Your Honor,
Yes.
is the funding source the same for this project?
Yes, Your Honor. Councilwoman, it comes from our entitlement funds through the AIP program, and so the overage for the majority of this will be from our reserved entitlement funds, and then for our matching components, that will come from the ARP legislation.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passed. Dog park location discussion. Public Works Director's report, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. And if you don't mind, I'll just grab the cable in case we need to have visuals. And I hope you don't mind, I'm going to sit down for this. It's kind of nice of having to see where I'm at.
Let's discuss that for a minute.
Those are my three knuckleheads at home right now.
Oh, man.
Okay. And if we need to, I'll share the screen real quick here.
Are those for sale, or what are we doing?
Well, that's how we're gonna pay for the fence.
We could
That's right.
run an auction real quick.
Yeah. Won't be very silent either.
Okay. And we'll use these visuals later if necessary. And Council, Your Honor, I am speaking from, I guess, two positions today, as a member of city staff, but also as president of the Rotary Club. This is a Rotary project. In 2018, Rotary really spearheaded a community initiative to build a dog park within the city of Riverton. It secured grants from the state of Wyoming and also Rotary International for this project. At that time, a location was identified next to the fire pit on the Riverwalk Trail near 2nd Street, South 2nd. That property is currently owned by the Depot Foundation, and so About 3 years ago, the City of Riverton, the Depot Foundation, and the Rotary Club entered a memorandum of understanding to build a dog park in that location. Details of that MOU are in your packet. I won't relate a lot of those, but basically it states that while the property is owned by the Depot Foundation, they will cover the liability insurance. When it transitions to the City of Riverton will cover the liability insurance. And then Rotary had some obligation for maintenance, but most importantly, it had obligations just to build the park. The original concept of the park included basically a perimeter fence, some wood chips, and that was about it from what we could afford from a budget standpoint. Excuse me, I've lost my mouse. There we go. The funds that Rotary had received was $3,500 from Rotary International, $3,000 from the Wyoming Placemakers Grant, and the 2018 estimate for fencing was about $6,000, so it was just right with the budget. The excess was going to help pay for a sign to cover rules for the operation of the park. Unfortunately, after executing the MOU that I've referenced, changes in leadership in Rotary stalled the project at the time, and then COVID-19 really just ground it to a halt. This was in part due to the loss of Job Corps students who were going to be a heavy partner in preparing the site and doing the grade work for it. And then also the impact of inflation on material costs for the fencing. That estimate in 2018 soon became inadequate to the budget that we had for those two grants. Because of that, Rotary was forced to look at other locations, other options, and really just brainstorm ways to make this dog park happen. A lot of it had to do with, I think, the club's obligation for the funds it had already received from Rotary International and the funds it had with the Placemakers Group, which were a drawdown situation. So they're holding the funds for us and waiting to disperse them. Several Rotarians, including Kathy Klein and Rick Gilpatrick and myself, spent a number of months looking at alternatives to the park. Some of it was trying to find fence to recycle, some of it was looking at different locations, and through that discussion, we identified really three options. And maybe now I'll show them on the overhead. You'll notice that one is the Riverwalk location that we've talked about. That's the one that is currently under an MOU. And so that one's taken care of. Another is the Pause location. That's basically on land where the wastewater treatment plant is located. If you look at the middle icon there, there's a lot of unused ground on the upper left corner of the property. And then the Honeycutt softball complex. As has been brought up before in council meeting, the southeast field of the Honeycutt complex has not been used for several years. It's currently a blighted situation. And so we thought there's fencing there. It would help, and I say this, Rotary thought there's fencing there. It would help with the budget shortfall that we had. And then it would provide an opportunity to make that space usable again. I'm gonna have to do this again. It's weird to share screens. So as we look at the different locations, there are a few things to consider. The Riverwalks and Positives is, again, it's already under an MOU and there's already approval to move forward. One thing that Rotary discovered is since that time of approval and since 2018 when it really came about, we realized there were items that were not considered. One was parking. This is the old style home building that has been sold and will be soon in operation again with another company. There's really not a ton of parking at this location. If you look at the highlighted yellow area, that's city right-of-way. There's an option to expand parking there. It's not in the city's, in Rotary's budget to do so. Another item to consider is accessibility. From the Riverwalk Trail down to the site that was identified for the dog park, there's give or take a 4 to 5 foot difference in grade elevation. And one thing that was brought up in Rotary is accessibility. Anyone who's elderly that would like to utilize the park would probably have a hard time traversing that terrain and getting to the park itself. So as you see in yellow, a way to solve that is to create a pathway down to the proposed park location. Another thing that has been brought up and something that the Gilpatricks were very aware of is the the water table in that area and the way that the river can affect that location. I don't think we're really worried about the site washing away. That's always a possibility with the Wind River, as we know, but I think at that location, we're probably fine. What we're really gonna see is changes in the level of water that's there during the seasons of the year. So those are things that we considered about that location as far as positives and negatives. When we look at some photos here, if you follow my cursor, this is the old style home building. This is looking south. This is kind of what's there currently for parking. It's an unpaved space. There's a little bit of a knuckle or a roundabout area there. Some of that's on county property, but it's not very large. This photo on the right is looking to the north. Here's the Style Homes building again. And you can kind of see that grade difference. You're down deep in the pocket, and that's where the grade work would occur and the fencing would be installed. And then here's looking to the west. I tried to show the fire pit, but you can't really see it in the photo. Fire pit's right here. So there is a benefit of congregating some activity in that location. So as we weigh the positives and negatives, there's some things for you as a council to consider.
Excuse me, Kyle.
Yes, please.
We do have camera surveillance on that area. Is that correct?
Your Honor, I'll defer that to Tony.
Your Honor, there is, through Idea Inc., there is a camera that feeds into dispatch, so there, and it goes over towards, right to the fire pit, is where it's largely. It is not motion activated, it is not, so it can be used, but a lot of the time it's used similar to ours. If something happens, we can review, but it is not one of those that is constantly monitor or anything, just for clarity.
And in its scope, is the dog park in the scope? Would that be in the scope of vision? Anybody know? I think it's pointed at the fire pit, is it not?
It is directly to the east. It's east, pointing west, southwest towards that dog park. It's a little bit over by the parking lot, so.
And it's clear back at the camera itself is clear back at the concrete company's fence line. So we do have surveillance there, is just part of the thought. I don't know that the camera's equipped to do the work we need, but.
Your Honor, that's something we could look into. I just don't know at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So that covers the location that was previously considered and some of the things we've thought of since that time. As I mentioned, the Honeycutt softball complex was explored. We first started looking at it because of the existing fence there. That would help significantly with the budget and maybe allow for other amenities to be installed in this dog park, potentially a drinking fountain with a doggy bowl or something of that nature. Those run about $3,000 to $4,000. Positives and negatives of this, again, it's an area that's not currently used, but it's not used, if we transfer it, it's not used for the original purpose. Parking does exist in this location. Accessibility is a little bit easier, and it's easier for, from a construction standpoint and an operation standpoint. We've had talks as staff with both softball organizations. I would say that they're open to this idea. I think it's fair to say that both leagues would probably prefer that that location go into a softball field. However, if it doesn't go into softball field, they've been very good to work with us. You'll notice that the outline that I have here on the image leaves out the current infield. In working with the girls' fast pitch team or league, they have said that they would like to try and repurpose that infield for maybe a top program, a skills program. And so that's why the dog park that could go there would really be centered on the outfield and then provide access here. This area here could turn into a recreation area where you plant trees, have picnic shelter, et cetera, to accommodate both recreation purposes. Obviously, a downside to this one is no one knows what could happen with adult league happening, girls fast pitch happening, and then dogs recreating at the same time. Dogs like to chase balls. Dogs like to bark at kids, so we don't know. We're hoping that having it far enough off the in-between area, that some of that conflict could be mitigated, but at this point, we don't know what that would be. Some photos just show the current condition of that field. As of a few weeks ago, you notice it's just been converted to a weed patch. One of the other problems that we have there is there's no irrigation that works underneath that field currently. There is some settling, and it would require some investment on the part of the city to really bring it back to a softball field or a recreation field. Each of you are aware of the landfill situation in that area. This image was in your packet, but I thought it would be helpful to show our current understanding of where the landfill cells are. If you try and correlate that green dashed line, that shows the old limits and excuse me, I'm tripping over my words, the extremities of the old landfill. The image on the left, if you kind of follow the line here, that's a landfill cell, and this is a landfill cell. Both of those were operated in the 80s. Those correlate, two of them, to running underneath both the softball complex fields and the Little League fields. They have really exhibited some settling in the outfield of both the southeast and the northeast fields of the Honeycutt complex, to the point that it settled several feet in that area. This is something that, again, shows a little bit of some brainstorming that occurred between the girls' fast pitch and myself. Not saying that this represents the action or the desire of their board, but just some brainstorming about where the dog park could be, where the infield skills and tot area could be, and then a patio area could be. The last concept I'm going to be very quick on, because Rotary really turned away from it, and that's mostly due to the proximity of the wastewater plant and some of the unpleasant smells that are there. I don't know how else to say it. But those are some photos of that location for your consideration.
Smells kind of like a dog.
It smells like a dog park, I don't know.
Yeah, I was going to say.
So, Your Honor, Council, that really represents some of the work that Rotary has put towards this dog park, and I can say as president of Rotary, we feel an obligation to complete this project. It was started several years ago, and I really have a goal to make sure that we get that done for the community, wherever it goes. It's interesting, since you all received your packet, Rotary has changed and shifted a little bit. My interaction with the club prior, it seemed very strong towards going towards the Honeycutt complex as their proposal. I did a vote today with the club, and it was split right down the middle, 50-50, with 2 abstaining. So I think from the Rotary Club standpoint, half the club would like to see it at the Riverwalk location, half the club would like to see it at the Honeycutt complex location. But I do think it's safe to say that everyone in the club would like to see it happen one way or the other. With that information, I do want to make sure that you are aware that there are representatives from the Girls Fast Pitch League here. We're thankful for the Metzlers being here today. They've been wonderful to work with, especially as we've brainstormed these opportunities. And from a staff standpoint, I think we really just want to get the council's discretion and direction on this. As soon as we know where you're comfortable having this dog park, we'll go out and build it, and we'll find a way to get it done, whether it's at the Honeycutt complex or whether it's at the fire pit. With that, Your Honor, I'll yield the floor, and I'll be very happy to take any questions.
Okay. The chair would entertain a motion to approve the construction of a dog park located on vacant southeast field at the Honeycutt softball complex.
Your Honor, I would move that we put the dog park at the Riverwalk location.
Second.
I can make that, we can make that motion, right? Yeah. I think let's make that motion, and then let's get to where we can have a discussion and just get some questions answered. So We do have a motion from Councilman Bailey. It's different than the motion that I addressed, so we'll restate that. We don't have a second yet.
Second.
Second? Thank you, Lindsay. So we have a second. And the motion that we do have is to build the dog park at the Riverwalk location. And then we have a motion to do that, and we have a second. We're at the point where we can have further discussion. So, anybody have any questions?
Your Honor, I'm just wondering what type of ground it's going to end up. Are you going to plant grass, or what is the concept for inside the fencing? If it needs watered or
Chips, wood chips.
Your Honor, Councilwoman, that is correct. We won't plant grass there. We're going to use some of the wood chips that we have at our yard waste facility.
Your Honor,
Yes.
is there a plan to have it divided so you can have small dogs on one side, large dogs on the other?
Your Honor, Councilwoman, we would love to do that, but that's not currently allowable in our budget. We have just enough to do the whole perimeter. However, we would like to segregate it and separate it to encourage small dog area and a larger dog area in the future. We just don't have funds at this time.
Thank you.
I have some questions about the accessibility of it in the winter and just safety and security. Would you want your kids down there by themselves with their dogs, or in the evenings? Or, I mean, I walk all over town. I don't know how safe I would feel having it there personally. If I'm walking in the evening or stuff, how safe do you feel like it is down there? Or-
Your Honor, Councilman, I probably couldn't answer that one in a way that could help. Maybe the chief could weigh in, but as far as accessibility, snow, ice, buildup, that's always a concern in that area. I'm not sure how much people are going to recreate there. We obviously are not going to maintain the park for snow, so if dogs go and recreate, they'll be running on top of the snow. Walking down to the park area, that could be a challenge depending on the type of person.
Are there options for other land for this?
Well, that's my idea, and I surely don't want to violate the dog park rules, if there are any. Is there a specific size that we have to have? I mean, are we trying to achieve a certain size of how many square feet, or you know, I've seen a lot of dog parks over the years in different places, and my thought runs back to, if we're trying to provide a dog park, we had a family that was interested in helping, that raised money and help with the project. Are they still involved?
Your Honor, yes, thank you for bringing that up. The family of Daisy Moore reached out to the city and Rotary several months ago and felt that it would be a nice memorial to her to build a dog park. And it was nice to say, hey, we're already working on that. And as far as city staff goes, we would love to partner with that family. They are willing to help with some funding. They're very willing to help also with volunteer labor. They would hope that we consider naming the park after Daisy in some way. My thought is saying something like Daisy's Place at Rotary Park. But I think it's a wonderful way to partner with a family that's gone through a hardship and a tragedy.
So I understand what Councilwoman Borders is saying. If we just made the park the right size, that we could, that we had fence to cut it in half, we could have big dogs and little dogs. And unless there is some size rules that we have to hit. So see, I go through Little America, and their dog park sits right on top of their gas tanks, and it's gravel, and their access to the tanks, or if they need it, they can surely close it to dogs. And the beauty of that is it's where people are, that's where the big trucks are parking, and it's accessible for them to do that. And so I think we ought to look at some different locations from the River Walk. What comes to my mind is if fencing is the problem, why don't we put it on the side of the tennis courts in City Park to the west side and come out 20 feet, split it in half, make two gates. make it really attractive. We got water there. I didn't know a dog fountain was $4,000, but that's pretty good. Is it gold, or is it just?
Your Honor, I could actually show you a picture of it, and unfortunately, it's not gold. If I can find my cursor again. There we go.
Down at the river, we could just drink out of the river, I suppose. And I think that what I'm thinking is if people come to town and they need a dog park, they're gonna have a hard time finding it down at the Riverwalk or even at the baseball diamond. But City Park's pretty, you could say it's at City Park, it's at the end of Main and Federal, and it'd be pretty easy to find, and they could park and get out and let their dogs. It wouldn't have to be huge. I'm not suggesting that it be overly large, but can we join a fence? Can we use the tennis fence? Is that a bad idea?
Your Honor, I don't think it's a bad idea, and I know Councilman Bailey has had similar thoughts. A few things that we learned when we were first looking into the dog park concept a few years ago was that the area should be big enough to allow the dogs to run and catch a ball. The dog park at Little America, we use it, it's great, but it's not an area that dogs can really recreate. It's a place for them to get out of the car for a few minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And so we envisioned something a little bit larger so they could run, catch a ball. The other thing that we learned is several communities discouraged putting a dog park in a main town center or in some of the main city parks. The reason for that is to avoid the conflict between dog and human or dog on dog. It doesn't mean that that's a hard and fast rule. I think you as a council can decide that. But the communities we did speak with, they said that the preferred way to do a dog park is to have it a little bit further out from your town center. And it seems to work better for those that really love dogs and those who really don't like dogs. So there's a lot of people that have passionate feelings about having dogs near them. And so to avoid that, they recommended staying away from our major parks.
So if that is not a good idea, we also have J.C. Park, and I believe years ago we inherited the drainage to J.C. Park, and that would have water in it, and the fencing would be a problem because the topographical lay would make the fencing harder than a flat surface. Mm-hmm. But I think there's other places in our that are in town. And the other problem with J.C. Park was you would have to park and then walk the whole length to the west side of the park to use that position. But maybe over by the bathrooms, behind the bathrooms, we could do something on the upper level or down lower on the baseball diamond side.
Your Honor, I do want to mention that was a location in 2018 that we as staff explored with Rotary. And I think it's a wonderful idea. However, it far exceeded the budget that Rotary had. Staff encouraged Rotary at that time that maybe in a few years, the city of Riverton could have multiple dog parks. One at the Riverwalk, one at this location, because we found the same problems that you just identified. Where do you park? How do you take your dogs to that area without maybe having conflict with someone who doesn't want to see a dog? But this would be a fun area because of the natural drainage. We just, at that time, Rotary didn't have the funds to do something that large.
So I believe that is owned by Rick Gilpatrick, the brown part of that. Am I wrong?
I don't know that.
I believe it is. So we have a friendly owner, and we also have a tree line that would separate the park. If we got to the west side of the tree line, we got that ground from the county. I believe we are the lucky winners of that weed patch. And so, but then if you come back over behind the bathrooms, did you look at that location? To the east and north of behind the bathrooms?
Your Honor, at that time, we didn't, and I think it's because Rotary was hoping for something a little larger, and I think that's the only reason why it wasn't explored that heavily.
So drop us down to City Park, and what if we went from the tennis courts clear to the sidewalk, the west sidewalk of City Park? That's a rather large section of ground, and there's some trees in that. And we could leave those trees in and just fence that. And you could put a sign up that you could see from the road that this is the dog park. There's a number of trees in there west of the tennis courts. If we had enough fencing, I was just trying to utilize the side of the tennis courts as part of our fencing. But we could put an aisleway through there so that there was separation between you could walk through. And I believe that's probably close to 100 feet.
Your Honor, I could measure that. I would recommend that from a future maintenance standpoint, if we put it on the tennis courts, that those be converted to a natural ground, just because it would be much harder for staff to maintain that hard surface when dogs use the bathroom and things of that nature.
Sure. And I'm not talking about using the tennis courts. I just want to use land west of
Okay.
the tennis courts, because we've turned some of those into pickleball courts.
They've remarked them, yeah.
So, yeah, Mike?
Your Honor, I guess my main reason for choosing the Riverwalks over the baseball fields is I would like to see us spend a little bit of effort and a little bit of money and maybe improve those fields and get them back level and into grass so we can use them for baseball, because I think there is a need. And I think if we started with a dog park down by the Riverwalk, I think if that idea catches on and is well used, I think we could add these additional locations. And again, after people are using them, then they're a little more willing to help fundraise, and, you know, I think we could raise some money. And I think there's some excellent locations at these existing parks that, again, it would basically just take the fencing, because there's already grass and trees and all that. And so I think this could be phase one of the dog parks in Riverton, and we could, you know, have several spread out around the different areas of the city.
My only disappointment in that thought is that I don't know that there's going to be a lot of draw to the park, to that location because of its parking. And when you go down to the Riverwalk, you park quite a ways away from where the dog park actually is. And so I am with Councilman Bailey, and I think most of the rest of the council, we should work really hard to get the softball field back into softball use. And I think that we can see that and justify that just by what the soccer did 2 weeks ago. And 1,700 kids brought into Riverton with their parents is a dollar volume that we really do need. And I think there's better locations for the dog parks. And I think if you're traveling through Riverton, you're never going to find this dog park. You've got to be pretty wise to find this dog park.
Your Honor, I think you're correct in the sense that it would require some wayfinding signs.
And maybe I'm not understanding dog park. Maybe the dog park that we're talking about is for local dogs and local owners to go down into, and it needs to be bigger than I'm thinking so that they can run and play and chase a ball, and it needs to be a really larger spot than I'm thinking of. I'm thinking more of a spot that you could get out and put your dog in it and have a picnic, and right there by the dog park, and then get back in and get in your car and go someplace. So I think there's two different usages of what we're thinking. And so maybe we need to discuss it more. I do understand the need to get going, and I do understand the supply chain problem, that you have $6,000 and how far that goes. But if there's no requirements, we should just start with what we've got. We shouldn't break Rotary or anything else. We should put up the 6, if we decide to do it at Riverwalk, we should put that up in the configuration and split it in half with the fencing that we've got. And that is phase one. That's as big a park as we had. And if it's not big enough and people want to improve it, then we should have fundraisers or whatever it takes to to expand those parks to what they need to be. But that one up behind Sunset, the real problem behind the J.C. Park, it would be a wonderful place to put your dog in that drainage. The problem would be trying to mow it and maintain it and for us to care for it, and the cost of the fencing to get through the water and everything else. But the dogs would love the water and all of that opportunity. So I think it would be a big draw. And I think Councilman Bailey's completely right, and we can poll the council, but I think we need to put that softball field into action and get it into a field. And I realize it's costly, it's gonna be sprinkler system, and it's gonna be regrading that field. And softball's here, maybe they would like to address that. Can you play softball without a grass outfield? Can you come up to the mic and help us?
Hello, I'm Missy Metzler, Riverton Girls Fast Pitch Softball President. So you could play without grass. I mean, we've played in worse, so as you can tell. I mean, we still use the field occasionally, so we had Adult League down there the other day in the burnt field playing away. So, I mean, you can. I mean, we would, I guess I have to say we would greatly appreciate if you guys would help. That's where I think we struggle, is because it's going to cost, I mean, me and Kyle had this discussion, it's going to cost a bit of money to get that field back into playing order. We did get some new material this last week delivered to help our fields, our 3 existing fields. This weekend we spent, oh my goodness, 20 plus hours probably down there reworking the fields and getting that put into it. We're still working on the northeast field. But we did find a source for field material, so that's a plus. We never could find anywhere, so it's up in Manchester. So we're looking at probably $10,000 in field material. So all we could afford this year was the 2 to help build up our fields so they're playable this year. So, but that's, I mean, we understand it's going to cost some money to fix it to a.
Was that field dirt you needed, or?
Yes, so it's, no. You actually have to have, so that's where our issues are, is I think we got some dirt probably 3-4 years ago from the city, and it had rocks in it. So now all those rocks are coming to the surface, and our girls are getting scraped up and everything. So we got some dirt from, it's actually scoria, 1/8 inch scoria. They actually use it in the warning track at Coors Field, but it's out of Manchester, Wyoming. So we found it, and they hauled it down. And so what we did is we just scraped baselines for right now in the batter's boxes and that to get it put in. So, but trying to find field material is, I think Lindsay probably even knows too, it's impossible. So it took us quite a while to track that stuff down, so.
Give me a call, I've got some for you.
Okay. Well, we've been asking for a long time. Nobody had answers, so.
So let's take this motion on through and see how it comes out, and then could we adjust the fencing to put up what we can afford to put up for now?
Your Honor, Rotary is willing and able to go forward with this current location if that's what you'd like.
And we would put it in chips, and let's downsize it to where we can cut it in half for big dogs and little dogs. Can we do that?
Your Honor, we can definitely look at that. I may have some fence that's down at the boneyard I could use for that purpose, but we're ready to move forward.
So how do we get water to the river walk for the dogs? We don't, or we do?
Your Honor, there's currently water on the other side of the trail.
Thank you. I didn't mean to chase you off the mic.
So we do have access to water on South Second. So it takes running a line down to that location.
Okay. So we keep the $4,000 gold water fountain?
Your Honor, that would probably be something we phase in at a later date, just so we can use the Rotary budget on the fencing at this time.
Okay. So it would be done without water for now. But we would have a fenced-in enclosure with wood chips surface for the bottom, and we would hope to get it with 2 separate sections for big and little dogs.
Your Honor, that is correct.
And are we going to name it after the individual? Is that, do we need to,
Your Honor, that would be my hope and recommendation, that we partner with the family and do that.
so maybe we could even have some fundraisers or some acknowledgement that that's where it's at and that's what we're doing. That work for everybody? Okay. So we have the motion to put it down on the Riverwalk and to use the existing fencing that we have budgeted for from Rotary. We're thankful and appreciate Rotary's involvement. I believe you said that was $6,000, and that the city will go ahead. We already have an MOU in place for that location, and we will provide fencing and chips for the project. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Kristen, did we get that correctly done?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Motion passes. Consideration of the Classic Aviation Fly-In Event. Public Works Director's report, please. Kyle, we're going to have to pay you more tonight.
Okay. And I apologize, Your Honor, let me just get to the right spot here. Your Honor, this is a fun one to bring towards you tonight. Classic Aviation approached city staff recently about holding a fly-in event at Central Wyoming Regional Airport. In preliminary discussion, we realized this was something that needed to go to the airport board, and so at the most recent airport board meeting, which was April 16th, Classic Aviation came. Richard Larson, who's the manager of the site location here, proposed his idea to have a fly-in event and really do an open house. Richard said they've been here for a year, and he's never really had an open house for the FBO after it changed over from Jim and Wanda. And what a great opportunity to do that for them and to promote some activity up at the airport. So the airport board was very positive towards Mr. Larson's idea and appreciated his efforts, and unanimously passed a motion that the city council consider Richard Larson's proposal and have basically allow for them to host a fly-in at the airfield. As you know, the City of Riverton owns and operates all of the airfield at Central Wyoming Regional Airport. We do lease hangars and other footprints to certain tenants, but they really only have a right to the footprint that they have. In the case of Classic Aviation, they rent their FBO terminal building, their large hangar, which they use more for air medical. They lease the land for the Quonset hut hangar, and then they lease the fuel farm from us. So really, they only have a right to utilize that space. For them to host an air show or a fly-in at the airport, the city council needs to authorize them so they can have a right to the aprons and make sure that we safely operate them. Whether it be an air show or a fly-in, the FAA gets involved because we want to consider safety first. We want to also consider our commercial passenger side. But all that's very easy to do. The FAA has a packet that tells you how to do a fly-in. Mr. Griffin is very informed on that and very willing to help. Another thing that I'd like to bring up at this time is, as you know, Hunt Field hosts an air show every year in September. That's the airport in Lander. And it's recently been discussed with the Lander Airport Board and those that put on the Hunt Field Air Show to alternate, so it becomes a Fremont County event. 1 year it would be in Lander, 1 year it would be in Riverton. We'd like to do that on the same date. It's typically the weekend following Labor Day. Currently, Lander is very open to this idea and feel that by pooling resources between the communities, we could come up with something that is a bit of a tradition in Fremont County. Lander will not host an air show this year, and so there's kind of an open, vacant time for us to get into this idea of alternating air shows or fly-ins. Air shows typically take a year to plan and organize, so we're a bit too late to the game to really have some type of air show, meaning aerobatics in the sky. But we could do a fly-in event and really support Classic Aviation's idea of having an open house. There's nothing obviously in the budget this year for the fly-in event. It would need to be brought into the budget for next year. We have not included that in our budget discussions. Anything that would require expense would be advertising, porta potties and other logistics of that sort. But I think we, working with Classic Aviation, could come up with a really cool fly-in event and do it in a short period of time. So with that brief explanation, city staff recommends the council approves the use of aprons, runways, and property associated with Central Wyoming Regional Airport for a fly-in event sponsored by Classic Aviation in the fall of 2021.
Thank you. The chair would entertain a motion to approve the use of the apron, the runway, and the property associated with the Central Wyoming Regional Airport for a fly-in event sponsored by Classic Aviation.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Bailey has the motion. Councilman Larson has the second. Further discussion. I do know that Du Bois had a fly-in 2 years ago, 1 year ago, last summer. Could they get in the rotation?
Your Honor, we hadn't considered that, but we could talk to them.
Okay. I just think they have some fairly, their runway, we are fortunate enough to have the president of the airport board in the audience. Is their runway, Dean, would you take the microphone for just a second? And do you know anything about the Du Bois Airport?
I do indeed, sir. My name's Dean Paranto. Thank you, guys. Yes, sir. Although we'd have to chat with Du Bois, but the Du Bois runway is a little bit peculiar, and there are a lot of pilots that are somewhat uncomfortable flying in and out of Du Bois. The runway is situated right at the foothill, and you always have peculiar wind issues there. And I think that from a space standpoint and runway usability standpoint, they may pose some interesting problems to having pilots fly in. I think it's a great idea. I would do it. I think the airport support structure there is a little bit lacking compared to Lander or Riverton. But I think it's a great idea. I think we'd have the best turnout in Riverton and Lander. You know, a lot of Riverton pilots go to Lander, and really a lot of pilots from all over the state come.
Okay, super. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
That would just be something that I would suggest. I know Mayor Myers would really appreciate the invitation to discuss it, I think. And so that would be my only point of discussion. I think it's a great idea, and I appreciate Classic for bringing it up and Richard Larson for bringing it to the board. Any other discussion? Seeing,
I have one question on that. Do you have an estimated budget for this year that would cost the city, or not really?
Your Honor, Councilwoman, the figure I had in my mind was about $5,000. I know Classic Aviation is also willing to contribute funds. I don't know what that is at this point because it's not official, but I think that would be an appropriate amount.
any other questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. The chair would call for a recess for about 5 minutes at this point. So it is 13 minutes after 8, so we'll be back at 8:17. 17, Ward 1's unexpected term interviews. City Administrator's report, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Council declared a vacancy for Ward 1 following the resignation of Corey Rhoda when he moved on April 6, 2021, was when the vacancy was declared, not when he moved, let's be real clear. And staff subsequently advertised for 3 weeks and ultimately received 2 letters of interest for 2 applicants. Council, pursuant to the normal process that we've had in place, what we've done is do pretty much the same thing. The 2 applicants will have the opportunity to answer the questions that have been provided to you tonight. Does everybody, I believe everybody has had those sent to them, and so we've cut those up, and we hope you like your questions. The first individual is on the phone. That is Zach Vogel. He is calling in for this meeting. The other individual is Dean Paranto. Dean will wait in the hall once Zach starts his interview process, and when he's done, then Dean will come in, trying to keep it as fair and even as possible so nobody has any significant advantages. Following those questions, council will have the opportunity, if they so choose, to go into executive session to discuss. Following that, or if you choose not to, it's up to you, we'll take a vote kind of the same way that we've done the council president vote, where you will each have ballots. The police chief and I will pick those up, take them to the back, count them, report. That individual that is selected, if they are present, because in this case we have one that isn't, one that is, council can choose to swear that person in if they're present, wait till the next time for either case. It is up to council. It's up to council, obviously. If the individual that is present is selected, that person would have to be sworn in at the next council meeting. But we all understand how that works. With that, Your Honor, we would recommend that the council conduct the interviews as provided, with the questions as provided, and we'd be happy to answer any questions for you.
Thank you. So let's just proceed into those interviews. Dean, will you be, okay, thank you. Zach, are you on the phone?
Yes, sir, I am.
Thank you for your attendance and for your interest in the position. We appreciate that. We'll start off with Councilwoman Borders, and just for clarification, do we have to ask both questions, or can we just ask one? If we have to ask the exact same question to each individual. Is that correct?
Your Honor, yes. We largely structure these off of how we do some of our hiring questions. We make sure that we've provided so you have time to ask 2 questions each. Those questions are the same in case to make sure that the discussion is the same. So we built it off of that. I don't know if it's really legally required that we provide that, and follow-up questions are very common, but we do recommend that generally we stick to the 2 that are provided.
Okay, thank you. With that said, Councilwoman Borders.
Hello, Mr. Vogel. How are you this evening?
I'm actually doing wonderful. I'm sitting in Gainesville, Florida, and it's 75 degrees and clear right now. So I'm enjoying R&R.
All right. So have you previously served on a governing board of any type or as the leader in any organization? If so, please describe the board and the organization, your role, and the number of years you served in such a capacity.
Well, most recently, I've been part of the Riverton Girls Fast Pitch Softball Board. I've come to council as representative. I've been their secretary. I've been the secretary for a year, their concessions manager for 2 years now. We are, again, with girls softball, trying to build a league and everything like that. Before that, there's been no real governing board that I've been on. Other than I've been a leader in my industry of my job for many years now. I've served in high school on different organizations, but let's face it, that's been like 10 plus years ago, so that's not really qualification material.
Thank you. Should I follow up with the second question? Okay. Next, what leadership style or unique characteristics would you bring to the council if appointed?
The biggest leadership style I can say is I am willing to disagree. However, my biggest thing is to come to a compromise. I will not disagree or agree with something unless we can come to a common middle ground. And that speaks to leaderships everywhere, whether they can compromise on something beneficial.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lindsay?
Briefly describe your personal interest or goal that has driven your desire to serve on the Riverton City Council.
Well, my personal goal and interest was I believe in the process. Once I heard that Corey was planning on leaving and moving and there was going to be a vacancy, I felt the need that I needed to throw my name in the hat so the process can continue and we can have a full city council to represent the people.
Is there something in particular you would hope to accomplish while serving on the city council?
Of course there is. My personal accomplishment is I want to use my education to help the police do their job easier. We now have a full staff, and I feel that them keeping us safe as citizens all across our town can make their jobs a lot easier, so we don't have to make more rules and code enforcement for them to keep people safe.
Okay, the regular scheduled council meetings are on the first, second, and third Tuesdays of each month, and sometimes on the fourth Tuesdays, beginning at 7 p.m. The meetings last approximately 1 to 3 hours, and in addition to council members serve as liaisons on various boards and committees. What impact will this type of meeting schedule have in your personal and/or work life, and do you foresee any conflicts?
Mike, that is a great question. And when I first came to this, I actually had a meeting with Mr. Tolstead about it because I had concerns about how my work life would affect with outside of the normal Tuesday councils. Tuesdays are great. I always have Tuesdays off from work. 7 p.m. is a great time. It's the early morning committee meetings before work that may be stressful at times, but as the leader and the person in charge of my business, I am sure I can rearrange schedules in order to accommodate being a liaison in certain committee meetings that happen before early mornings and not on Tuesdays.
Okay, and what do you believe are the 3 greatest strengths of the city of Riverton?
The number one greatest strength is the commitment of its people, the individual citizens moving on this town. I see so many good people out there that are trying to form committees, get grants, build up and build the city from the ground up. The second, greatest strength in the city of Riverton is the staff, like city administrators, city employees, and the officers, the people that clean the porta potties, all the way down to the person that sweeps the street, how committed they are to their community and keeping it safe, which they ought to be completely commended for how hard they work to keep this place safe. And the third strength is, again, the people, the committees, like the Kicking Trash group that goes around and helps clean up, the different boards and organizations, airport things, the committees that are working to bring people to town, to help businesses grow, the fact that we are trying as a people to grow our city with limited budget and out in the middle of Wyoming, trying to make it a destination point is impressive to me.
Thank you. Kyle?
Thank you.
Kyle Larson here. First off, I want to say how I think your Domino's Pizza is, you've demonstrated some real skill levels there. In your opinion, what areas do you believe the city could improve on?
This one is a tough one.
Good.
I believe our biggest problem that we need to improve on as a city is our crime report. If you read the Riverton Ranger County 10, every single day there is a drunken public intoxication, multiple DUIs, public vandalism. I mean, people coming from the outside, if they look at our newspaper and be like, I wonder what kind of crime we're looking at. And they see that almost every day we have a drinking problem. I want to find an awesome way that doesn't hurt businesses, doesn't negatively impact one individual person, like single them out, but somehow find a program or a way to get this public intoxication, this DUIs, the vandalism, the kind of negative things that the newspaper has to report, get that under control so it seems like we have a much cleaner and more respectable place to bring businesses and communities out to play and use our parks and be out on the streets.
If you could make one change or improvement to the city, what would it be?
I would bring public transportation to Riverton. I believe that Riverton is big enough that we could have a public transportation system to get people from point A to point B, the ones that don't have vehicles, the ones that are uncomfortable driving, get them to the store at a decent, reasonable expectation where they could stop, go from their house at one point, make it to Walmart, get a ride back. Just like any major city or metropolitan area, I do see that we could use something like that in our town to get people to our businesses that may or may not be stuck at home away from our main street.
Thank you. Christy?
Hi, Zachary. This is Christy Salisbury. How would you have proposed to involve residents in the decision-making process through the City Council?
That is a great question. I feel like our city council members are not as open to meet and greet as, our citizens, they meet our police officers, they meet our public works employees, like when they're picking up trash, our postman when they're delivering mail. But I've never seen, back in the pandemic started, Mr. Guard came to my business and offered the city's help. Like, hey, what can the city do to help you guys out? As for city council members, I know where Mike works. If I really wanted to bug him, I'm sure I could go down to his place of business and interfere with his busy workday to bug him about something. But I feel that we as a city council could be more flexible on, hey, send us an email. Make us a Facebook page that you could send us, post comments to us about. Use social media to make ourselves less of people sitting up on a podium making rules and more of a, hey, we're actually your representatives, but we can't represent you unless we get more than just one or two person's opinion.
Okay, hypothetically speaking, if you received a $1 million grant to use for the city in any way you wanted, what would you do with it and why?
I would love, if I had a $1 million grant, I would love to use that to invest in a 10-year plan for rebuilding, make an investment in our city for 10-year plan of every year we redo an entire length of road. Every year that we have this money, we invest 10% back into planting new trees like we have in the past with Arbor Day. Do a 10-year plan, not just, let's fix this problem this year, and then next year we'll fix the next problem if we have the budget for it. to do a continuing process where we always have the money to make basic improvements, so we're not waiting on a budget to make sure we have enough money to continue to improve if the money's there.
Thank you.
Thanks. This is Mayor Guard. What do you believe is the most compelling issue facing the city of Riverton?
The most compelling issue is how well our people do not utilize our town. They're not in public. I don't see people walking down Main Street window shopping. You see people, one or two people visiting our city park on any given day. There's birthdays there, but we don't see our citizens feeling secure enough or welcomed enough to be in the public. They drive from point A to point B, and they shop online. They visit our big box stores. But we could probably we need to get people out and about. We have beautiful summers here, and I want to push an initiative that it's okay to walk along Main Street and window shop. There's nothing weird about that. And that's something I feel is facing the city of Riverton. We're not out in the public.
Okay, thank you. The city must render decisions regarding the implementation of policy, laws, or programs that may somewhat be difficult or unpopular. What would your response be to a disgruntled citizen about the policies, laws, or programs that was adopted by the city council, even if you didn't vote in favor of it?
My question would be, can you bring me something better to bring to them? Do you have a different idea that we didn't consider? We go as city council members off the best information we have at the moment. I invite you to come down, give us your opinion, offer us a different opinion or option that we could do so that we can consider it. Because we're only going off the information we have. If you have better information, I would love to hear it.
Those are good responses, Zach. We appreciate your time. I wish I was in 75-degree weather. Does anybody else have any additional questions that they might want to ask? Zach, do you have anything that you'd like to say as a closing statement?
No, thank you for the opportunity, and I look forward to hearing from you guys one way or the other on your decision.
We appreciate that. Thank you for putting in your application.
Thank you very much.
That's good or bad? That's quick. You guys speak quickly. Good evening, guys. Thank you.
Good evening, Dean. I suppose we should, for the audience sake, why don't you tell us your name and
For the audience's sake, my name is Dean Paranto.
okay.
Probably for everyone else's sake, thank you guys for having me here tonight. I look forward to visiting with you for a few minutes.
We appreciate that. And I think you heard the discussion. Each one of the council members will be able to ask you 2 questions. And we'll start with Carl again, okay?
All right, Your Honor, thank you. Have you previously served on a governing board of any type or as leader in any organization? If so, please describe the board and organization, your role, and the number of years you served in such capacity.
Thank you for the question. You know, in 30-plus years as a businessman in Fremont County, I get to express leadership every day, just in dealing with employees, problems, kind of the works. But in addition to that, I spent 8 years on the Fremont County School District 25 School Board. Spent 5 of those as chairman, 2 as vice chair. I also spent 8 years on the Northwest BOCES board, 7.5 of those as chairman. I've been on the airport board years, 12, 13, you know? Long time.
Longer than I've been here.
A day or two. And I've spent most of that time also as chairman. And I've also had the honor of spending the last almost 13 years on the Fremont County School District Rec Board, on which you serve as well.
Yes,
So I've had a little bit of experience.
just a tad. All right, thank you. What leadership style or unique characteristics would you bring to the council if appointed?
Well, a lot of my leadership style just revolves around listening, gathering information pertinent to the discussion, research when necessary, which it often is, and then making a decision that really provides for the best outcome. And as far as unique characteristics, I think bringing the lens of business and being an entrepreneur to the discussion lends itself some value.
Thank you.
Lindsay?
Okay, thank you for being here tonight. Can you briefly describe any personal interest or goal that has driven your desire to serve on the city council?
I can. I think it's important to have the heart of a servant, and to give of your knowledge, your skills, your time, and your energy to the community in which you live. I think that's really important. And I've always thought that from my days as a young man in the United States Air Force to today, where I still continue to serve my community.
Is there something in particular you would hope to accomplish while serving on the city council?
Hopefully lots of really good things, but I don't come with an agenda to bear. I think the council does a really good job, and in many ways, I just like to be a part of that.
Thank you.
Mike?
So the regularly scheduled council meetings are the first, second, and third Tuesdays of each month, sometimes the fourth Tuesdays, beginning at 7 p.m. The meetings last approximately 1 to 3 hours. In addition, council members serve as liaisons to various boards and committees. What impact will this type of meeting schedule have on your personal and/or work life, and do you foresee any problems?
Well, I think it's important to take all that into consideration because there is a time commitment. But, you know, once I make a commitment, I always give it my full dedication. Anybody who's been on any boards with me knows that I do rarely miss meetings. It happens sometimes, but I do go above and beyond in all the boards I serve. And I think it's important that once you give it that commitment, that you do give it all of your dedication. So I don't really foresee any problems with my schedule, although I stay pretty busy. I have a lot of flexibility, as you know, Mike. So being the boss kind of lends itself to a little bit of freedom. It lets me choose the hours I work, as long as they're between midnight and midnight, and sometimes all of them. So with the exception of the 18th of May, where I have some previous family obligations, this kind of came at short notice, and it's a little bit too late to reschedule that family trip. But other than that, and even at that time, I could be present via phone or Zoom.
Okay, and then what do you believe are the 3 greatest strengths of the city of Riverton?
Wow. You know, as I read that question, I had to think about it, but really, you don't have to think too hard or too deep, because the city has a lot of strengths. And one of those is that we have a really good business-minded community. I think the city and the city council works hard to make businesses successful and to make decisions that encourage business to come. Another aspect that I'd be remiss if I didn't mention would be our awesome airport. I think that having that facility, not just for the citizenry of Riverton, but for our county and the surrounding counties, is a huge asset for our community. And really, the other thing, and this comes a lot from the rec board, is we have such a huge volunteerism community that once somebody decides to get something done, it gets done. You look at the splash pad, you look at the skate park. We had a great discussion last night with Matt on the skate park, and these people come to this community with this enormous passion, and it comes out in stuff. And it's pretty neat. It's pretty amazing. You talk about dog parks, you talk about skate parks, you talk about everything for the gamut, which, by the way, the rec board may be able to provide some help with, was my thinking as sitting in the audience. But that spirit of volunteerism is just huge in our community, and it really makes it feel like home.
Kyle.
In your opinion, what areas do you believe the city could improve on? Just one area.
Just one? Being on the airport board was kind of an eye-opener over the years. And one of our recent discussions was about renaming the airport and branding. And I was in the hallway thinking, I was thinking the economic impact of branding yourself properly is huge. And I don't know that we've spent enough time as a city making sure that our brand is out there. Our Central Wyoming brand lends itself to a lot of really good positives. You know, the folks from Evanston don't have to travel to Casper. They could go halfway, stop in Riverton. So we can be that Central Wyoming hub for the state, providing we have the facilities to accommodate that.
Did you hear that, Kyle? If you could make one change or improvement to the city of Riverton, what would it be?
Funny you should mention, sir. I think a community center would be a huge asset to our city for a lot of different reasons. One of them I just mentioned. But I think that it would encourage a lot of economics stimulus. I think it would bring business to our community. I think it would bring a lot of groups and organizations to our community. And we saw what the soccer folks did a couple of weeks ago. It's just amazing. And being centrally located, that kind of dovetails on my previous answer, but I think a community center would be a great facility.
Can I ask one follow-up on that?
I would say, yeah, I would think so.
Just short.
Okay.
How would you fund it?
Well, we talked about the volunteerism. That's one, but I do think that there are funds available for community centers. I think we have to look pretty hard at those. If the city of Rawlins can fund it, and, you know, Park County's not a great example because they have money coming out of everywhere. But I think there are funds out there, and I think that we'd have to make it a priority and look at ways to do that.
Thank you.
Christie?
How would you propose to involve residents in the decision-making process through the city council?
Kind of interestingly, just a few days ago, I was reading an article about a community in Utah where the city council was having challenges getting input from the citizens. And over the years, they tried surveys, they tried all sorts of things. But I really think that technology in the form of an app or survey is really working for them now. And it doesn't actually provide direct input to the council, but it gives kind of an overview of what the citizens might be thinking or what's important to them. So I think implementing technology, and I'm not just talking Facebook, I'm talking active technology, could be a venue for generating additional input.
Okay. Hypothetically speaking, if you received $1 million grant to use for the city in any way you wanted, what would you do with it and why?
You know, it's funny, $1 million is a lot of money. But $1 million isn't a lot of money when you look at a gate costing $300,000, right? So when you look at big projects, it's hard to fund a big project with $1 million because you're going to come up short if it's that big of a project. So I think it's important that we look at either underfunded or unfunded smaller projects that might have a big impact to the community and try to spend money on those.
Thanks, Dean. I appreciate your willingness to come and apply. What do you believe is the most compelling issue that faces the city of Riverton?
The most compelling issue, honestly, is probably healthcare right now. I think that's deep in the minds of many. You know, we have a lot of uncertainty as to the, not just the availability, but the quality of healthcare in Riverton. And some of the things that I hear a lot about are just the lack of, I think people are kind of scared to use our existing healthcare infrastructure. I've heard people say they'd rather hitchhike to Casper than go to the ER in Riverton. And it's like, well, that's kind of scary. So I think that if there is an overarching need or discussion to be had, I think that would be it.
Thank you. The city council must render decisions regarding implementation of policies, laws, and programs that may be somewhat difficult or unpopular. What would your response to disgruntled constituent about the policy, the law, the program that was adopted by the council, even if you didn't vote in favor of it?
You know, that's not really a concern because that never happens. Everyone always agrees. But that being said, I really hold the steadfast belief that a board or a council is a body made up of individuals. And it's important that as individuals, you bring your ideas and your concerns and your thoughts and your ideas to the board before the vote. And if you're the dissenting, either the lone or otherwise, vote, but the unanimous decision is to move forward with whatever it is, I think you're incumbent to support the board or the council and step in lockstep with that. And that needs to be your position, regardless of what your personal conviction was. I think people could look at your voting record and make a decision as to whether you were for them or against them. But I think once a decision is made as a body, you really have to circle behind that and support it. And really, I think, subsequently, I think it's inappropriate to continue to rail your point of view after the vote's been taken.
I appreciate that answer. That concludes our questions, and we appreciate your willingness to come put your application in and to
Thank you. I
think
appreciate
you might
everybody's
join.
time and dedication to the council.
Thanks, Dean.
Thank you.
We'll now go into an executive session on personnel. The chair would entertain a motion to convene into executive session for the purpose of personnel, consideration of appointment, employment, right to practice, dismissal, complaint against, a complaint or a charge against the public officer, professional person, or employee in accordance with the Wyoming State Statute 16-4-405 AII, and for the purpose of considering offers, tendered wages, salaries, benefits, or terms for employment during negotiations in accordance with Wyoming State Statute 16-4-405 AX.
So moved.
Second.
Councilwoman Salisbury has the motion and Councilman Bailey has the second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion passes. We stand convened into executive session at 8:52, 8:53. regular session. The chair would entertain a motion to reconvene into regular session.
So moved. Second.
Councilman Bailey has a motion. Councilwoman Borders has a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passed. We reconvene at 9:04. Tony, you want to run the ballots, or you want me to?
Your preference, Your Honor, we can do it like we usually do, or?
You have ballots in front of you, and if you'll mark who you want to be on that ballot, we need to do that in public, and then we'll turn those over to the chief and Tony, and don't trap anybody in that room back there, right? At least you got the chief with you this time.
Really scared.
That really might stress someone.
You're a ruckus.
I have a lady in town who calls me to ask me for people's phone numbers. Not,
For council?
no,
Oh, just
she calls me like I'm
Instead
the
of-
operator.
the operator?
Sometimes it's for something else.
For all those to know that Christy Salisbury has all phone numbers.
They can have it technology.
Tony?
Your Honor, Dean Peranto was selected as the individual to fill the Ward 1 vacancy until the 2022.
Thank you. Dean, can you meet me up at the mic and we'll swear you in?
Should we clap?
That's an IT person right there. If you ever. Driving upset the.
Somebody did. Coiled up the cord for the computer. It would bother anyone.
I'll stand over you. This time we don't have to pin him with a badge, right?
That's right, no pinning.
Please.
Try not to. Right hand.
I will.
I do solemnly swear or affirm
I do solemnly swear
that I will support and obey and defend the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Wyoming,
the Constitution of the State of Wyoming,
that I have not knowingly violated any law
that I have not knowingly violated any law
related to my election or appointment,
related to my election or appointment,
or caused it to be done by others,
or cause it to be done by others,
and that I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity.
and I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
And you can come sit up by me.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
There's your chair.
Thank you, sir.
Congratulations.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Aces, straights, and flushes.
That works. It's an apple, right?
Now, with that said, we welcome you to the dais. We appreciate your willingness to serve, and we're looking forward to the opportunities that we have.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate you asking me to apply and entertaining my application today.
And with all that said, we saved the best for last, right? Mia? No, we got past the dog park. We get Mia's quarterly report, which if she would present that to us, we'd greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'll share with you my documentation.
Just a moment here to connect up. I kind of feel like Kyle should be doing this tonight with all of the activity he's had going at the meeting. All right. First of all, I wanted to thank Dean and Zach both for applying for the council seats, and also all of you for your work as elected officials. It is a big time commitment, and we appreciate all of the work that you do on behalf of the members of our community. So thank you very much for that. We are now at the close of the third quarter of our fiscal year budget, and the body approved a final fiscal year budget just totaling in excess of $26.6 million. And so I'm going to read through each one of these by fund. So we've got a little bit of information on what's going on here. So for the benefit of our new members and for our audience, the general fund is our primary operating fund of the city, and it's used to account for revenues and expenditures of most of the tax-supported activities of the city. And it makes up 44% of this year's total budget, with the remaining 56% derived from the other city funds. The total budget funds budgeted for the general fund is just in excess of $8 million. And the city staff was extremely conservative in planning our budget this last fiscal year with the impact of the pandemic. We were just unsure of what we really were looking at. So we actually took a 28.9% cut from our budget this year over the prior year. The city staff did budget transfers of $320,948 from reserves for operations this year. And the amounts referenced on the slides represent both operational and capital revenues and expenditures, as well as any budget transfers. So at the close of the quarter, revenues exceeded expenditures by $1.3 million. And like Mr. Paranto said in his interview, $1 million sounds like a lot of money, but $1 million is really not a lot of money. So last year's variance for this same period was $508,549. Some revenues highlights for the general fund. The following funds already exceed our annual projected budget for revenue. So our sales tax, we have exceeded our projections already by the end of the third quarter by $235,191. And because we were conservative, we also have conservatively estimated another $222,000 in receipts prior to year end. So hopefully our sales tax revenues will close out with about a little over $450,000 in excess. Use tax, that exceeded our already annual budget by $49,234, and we expect another $26,000 in appropriations prior to the year end. And then also our supplemental funding exceeded projections by $49,175. So we've already earned another $336,000 over what we projected in the budget for revenues. As far as our general fund expenditure highlights go, we did budget $1.3 million for capital projects, and at this point, we have only spent $327,000 of that. So if we look at that $1.3 million that we have, $991,000 of it is unspent money for capital projects. And the majority of the unspent capital is in the North Federal Decorative Lighting Project, which we budgeted $500,000 for and will not get started this fiscal year. So you will see that project coming up in our next fiscal year budget. Also the North Federal Boulevard project at 192-961. And then we also have fleet and equipment purchases of $122,835 that we have not spent as well. Due to the timing of construction schedules and purchases of our equipment arrivals, again, we'll be moving some of this stuff into next year's budget. So you'll be seeing this again through our discussions in the upcoming weeks. We also realized a savings of $30,000 in the contracts for services budget line item. If you'll remember, the council approved funding for the VOA, and then they decided that they weren't gonna accept city funding, so we did realize that saving as well. Another area where we see the savings with the $1.3 million is cost centers such as our streets and alleys, weed and pest, and our parks division. Those are seasonal types of cost centers, and with the startup of the spring and the summer seasons, you'll see that they will start utilizing their funds as well. So that is basically the general fund in a nutshell. Any questions on that so far? Okay. All right, so moving on to the airport fund. I usually do the airport fund separate or next because we normally use funds in the general fund to offset costs to the airport fund. So the total budget for the airport fund is $1,775,000 and some change. Of that figure, $1,178,000 is allocated to capital purchases and improvements. And the airport fund closed the third quarter with a budget surplus of $249,163. I think that's the first time ever in my tenure here at the city that we've had a positive in the airport fund. Comparatively, this fund reflected a deficit balance of $133,000 for this same period last year. The city has been awarded a 4-year grant in excess of $1 million in federal funding for CARES Act to offset costs associated with airport operations. And the city staff has received reimbursements of $402,494 so far this year. Part of the terms of the grant was that we were allowed to actually go back and collect on expenditures from a previous portion of last fiscal year. So we received $174,000 of those expenses, and that is included in the $402,000 figure. The airport fund has also realized $185,000 for the sale of property this year as well. So our airport fund is looking really well. And also, as Kyle spoke earlier this evening, some of our AIP funding is being covered 100% by Airport Cares Fund money as well. So. Moving on to the water fund, the total budget for the water fund is just slightly in excess of $7 million. This is a $2.8 million increase, which is 69.1% over last fiscal year, and that was necessary to complete the final phase of the Riverton water supply project. The city staff did budget $4.2 million for that project, and $3.2 million of that was in grant and loan funding. And the remaining balance of $1 million was to be taken out of our cash and reserves, and we did budget that this year. So as you can see, it looks like our water fund is in the deficit about $736,000. The total amount we budgeted from cash and reserves, $465,000 from cash and $660 from reserves to complete the project. We haven't made the transfer yet. So remember, keep in mind, while we're looking at a $736,000 deficit, I want to wait till the year end to actually see where we land overall before we make that transfer. I'm hoping that we won't have to make as much. It's also important to know that we have received grant funding in April, also grant reimbursements for the water fund, and that amount was $223,000. So already this fourth quarter, we're looking that much better in the water fund. But at the end of the day, we probably will end up having to transfer some, but I would like to wait until we get a little further down the road to see how much we need to move. So for the wastewater fund, that total budget is a little in excess of $2.3 million, and this is actually a decrease of $216,000 from last fiscal year. Our revenues have exceeded our expenditures by $363,668. It's been a good year of recovery for our wastewater fund this year. Last year, the second quarter closing balance was $48,000. So we're making some headway there. And just as a reminder, last year, the sewer fund realized large expenditures with the North Federal and the East Bell sewer replacement projects. So that's where a lot of our money went last year. Most of the capital projects budgeted for this fund are for improvements to our aging wastewater plant. And again, as within some of our other funds, some of the larger spend for those projects are not going to take place this year. So we'll be bringing that back to you again for next year in the budget. City staff budgeted a transfer to reserves in the wastewater fund this year of $57,000. And based on where we're looking now, we're gonna be just fine with that. And the sanitation fund. The sanitation fund has historically been one of our larger we've maintained a larger fund balance and we don't have any loans against our sanitation fund. The projected budget for the sanitation fund is $2.5 million, and this does reflect an increase of just slight 1.9% over last fiscal year. This is to budget for the purchase of a new sanitation truck, which is on order but has not yet arrived. So at quarter end, the revenues outpaced expenditures by $539,000. Last year, the fund closed during this same period with a balance of $28,925. So the large variance this year, again, is the result of funds received from our insurance company from the tub grinder operation failure that we had last spring. We will incur a large unbudgeted expense of $567,000 to replace the tub grinder and the other $35,000 for the used tractor, which the council had approved in a previous meeting. So again, and we also have not received our sanitation truck. So while our sanitation fund looks healthy at the moment, we're going to have some big expenditures coming up with that. And again, that will likely be carry over into next year's budget.
The Waste, Fremont County Waste Board said that they would give us some money for the tub grinder. Have we received that?
Yes, Your Honor, we have.
That was 80,000.
So then moving on to the Air Service Fund, it's been kind of our sleeper fund this year. We haven't had a lot going on in Air Service. The fund has been primarily funded in the past by the City of Riverton, the City of Lander, and then other local entities. The city also receives reimbursements from the state of Wyoming. Beginning in fiscal year 22, the funds to support air service will come from the 0.5% tax that was just recently passed for economic development. We are invoiced quarterly from YDOT, although we haven't received our most recent invoice from them. As of the close of the quarter, the city has only paid $99,294 to YDOT Aeronautics for air service. Our air service is just performing phenomenally, and we're doing a really good job with it, and so hopefully that will continue. At the close of the third quarter, the Air Service Fund budget reflects a positive balance of $235,466.
Great report. Appreciate that.
You're welcome. Can I answer any questions for anybody?
Keep up the magic.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mia. We now come to council committee reports and roundtable, and let's shift a little bit. Christy, could you lead us off?
We'll have a Chamber of Commerce meeting this Thursday. We haven't had one since, but for the soccer tournament, I want you all to know that I ran the inflatables for 2 days with thousands of kids, but it was great to see all the people out. We had so many compliments to our city, and we need to keep on doing a lot of these activities because it was great.
Thank you. Kyle.
I think we've just struck gold by having somebody on the opposite end of the spectrum who understands the value of an airport. And we need to still put out that it's central Wyoming, not Riverton. And we are part of the greater part of Wyoming, the greatest part of Wyoming. And come to Riverton and fly in our airport, play soccer. You know, I spent my day last Saturday driving between Casper, Wyoming and Worland, Wyoming. And on any given Saturday, people are driving somewhere, and they might as well be driving to Riverton. Thank you.
Thank you. Dean, do you have any reports?
I do, sir. And I'll present those next time.
Okay. Mike.
Thank you, Your Honor. Again, I think it was great when we had the soccer weekend here a couple weeks ago. It was great to see lots of people in town and restaurants and the streets busy and the parks were busy, and everywhere you went there was something going on. And I think they used every patch of grass that they could find to play soccer on, and so it was awesome to see that. And I think we need to keep doing stuff like that. Again, last Tuesday morning, the Boys and Girls Club had their breakfast, and in normal Riverton fashion, we had a great turnout. Again, fellow city council members got to help us serve breakfast to the community, and I thought that was great, and I apologize, Carla, we didn't let you know. I heard we dropped the ball on that one, but I should have called you at 4:30 that morning and get up and help.
I don't know if I would have answered, but.
So Ashley was just at Rotary today to get another presentation of a little bit of money from the Boys and Girls Club. So with that, I know that we went over $100,000. So I think that's just awesome. It shows, you know, the spirit of Riverton and what we can accomplish if we all put our heads together and, you know, we can get things done. So again, Kyle, I don't think we'll have any problem scrounging up a few more $1,000 to get a fence put around a dog park or something like that. So it was awesome.
And thank you, Mike, for providing breakfast. And I didn't know that many people like that much gravy till we served it.
Yeah, when you start cooking in gallons, cups, it's a whole different thing, isn't it? So, so again, it just, it really makes me proud to be a member of the city. And we've done it so many times. You know, we come out and support CES and Child Development Services and PAWS and, you know, all of these organizations. And Riverton always comes out in force and supports them well and takes care of our own and gets things done. So it really is a good example, hopefully, for the rest of the state of how we should be. So, thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Lindsay?
I also want to just commend the City of Riverton for coming out for the Girls and Boys Club. It was a lot of fun to be there and see everybody bright and early in the morning. So, yeah, it was nice. I haven't had any board meetings since our last meeting, but during the soccer weekend, I had family in town from Douglas, and they actually held a birthday party at J.C. Park for my cousin and got to check out the improvements there. So it looks really nice. The kids had fun, and so I wanted to let that be known, and yeah, but hopefully I'll have more to report next time.
Thanks. Carla?
Your Honor, we had the School District 25 Rec Board meeting last night, and of course it was productive as always. They're presently going through a state audit, learning a lot. I learned a lot just by listening to everybody last night on all the details that are involved. The engagement meeting or engagement committee will meet next week, so I'll be attending that. And then I want to thank city staff. I don't know how many times we'll get an email. I think Tony's staff report came out at 8 o'clock Friday night. I mean, these guys are working all the time. And I want you guys all to know how appreciated it is. And it's noticed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tony?
I was working at 8, so I'm going to go take a nap.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. Your Honor, we,
After you're done, you can take
a couple things. I'm going to take a nap and, thank you, Councilwoman. That's very kind. It is appreciated. We have, just a couple items. Ambassadors will meet on this coming Thursday. That group is taking off. They're involved in a whole lot, and we appreciate that. Force is scheduled for Monday. Monday morning at 11 a.m. I always have to get the right times on the meetings. There's a couple of them. EDGE is scheduled for 2 weeks from now on the 20th. There is some discussion about moving that, but at this point it is still for the 20th. That group has already heard all of the applicants, so they'll be discussing that, and council will be receiving recommendations shortly thereafter. We will be preparing Dropboxes, either a Dropbox or jump drives with all of the documents for council well in advance, and we would tell you that there's a lot of information. So we've tried to keep it as concise as we can, but we have extra questions in there, follow-ups. So we wanted to make sure we got all the information we could get. So, but it's harder to email you with that much stuff. That's what we ran into with challenges, and we're fixing it now. But we'll have to adapt quickly for that presentation. Your Honor, we mentioned events, the different types of events, and we have a lot of people doing that. And I wanted to share one of the events that, I shared it with the mayor already, and it happened this week, and I was told my son shoots archery. And I was told I needed to take him. My wife was out of town with my daughter, and I needed to take him to his 3D shoot. And I said, what's the address? And I was given the address, and I showed up at Tonkin. And I said, we're doing a 3D, and they did. They set up a 3D archery shoot at Tonkin with school's permission, of course. It went amazing. But we have a lot of, we work with 4-H sometimes, we work with different groups, and this community does amazing stuff. I never thought I would see a 3D shoot at Tonkin, but I put up the Facebook video because I had to prove that it happened. It was really neat. We do have amazing people that do a lot of really good things, especially for our youth. We see a lot of it this time of year, and we're happy to be part of it, so thank you. Your Honor, I do have one item, and I apologize. It's we have the WHAM conference coming up, and for our new council members, WHAM is the Wyoming Association of Municipalities. You probably know that, and they're one of our references. They do a lot of our legislative work for us, and they do a lot of our education. They also have one of their subsidiaries is WHAMCAT, I think is how we would say that. So Wyoming Association of Municipal Clerks and Treasurers, to which Kristen and me are both members. Active members. That is happening, that we have a conference coming up July 14th through the 16th. Currently, the mayor and I will attend right now. Others are welcome to attend if you want to spend 3 days in Cheyenne, and there's a lot of learning to be done. There's tons of courses, legislative updates, multiple meetings. It is really neat. But we do need a voting delegate. Currently, if no one else is going, the mayor would be the voting delegate, but council would need to make that vote. So what I would ask is if we could have a vote appointing a voting delegate. If someone else is going, I guess we can have that discussion.
Is anyone else interested in attending? So
I move that we make the mayor our voting delegate to the
we need,
WHAM.
we need a second.
Your Honor.
Your Honor, one second. I apologize. I forgot one thing. You need an alternate.
Okay.
Also, doesn't have to be a council member, so you can appoint me the alternate, or I guess the mayor could be the voting delegate and the alternate, but probably wouldn't work out real well.
So moved.
We need a second.
Second.
So we have a motion from Councilman Larson, and we have a second from Councilman Bailey to have Mayor Guard be the voting delegate to WHAM, and City Administrator Tony Tolstad to be the alternate. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion passes. Anything else, Tony?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
It's been a busy week, and I started out with attending a WHAM meeting at Hudson City Hall, an FTAG meeting at the Lander City Hall, and this meeting is really important, and I really look forward to it. Happens only once a month, and it's about a 4-hour plus meeting, and it has all of the mayors in the room and a commissioner. And we had a long discussion on ambulance service, and it's a real problem. I see that the commissioners also dealt with that again today in their agenda, and so they got no takers at that point in time. They got no applications to take over the ambulance service. And so we need to do some things there, and we need to move forward and get that fixed. And I think we can and will, and we have some interest there. So there's been some thought that maybe the cities would have to pay for their coverage. So we need to understand that and get together, and I don't know where we'll pay for it from, but we'll have to see what we can do. I was able to attend the Boys and Girls Open House at Ron Bosica's house, and I appreciated that evening meeting to meet with Mary Margaret Stockhouse and Dave DeVecchi and others that had put the whole program together. And what a wonderful opportunity that was. I can't tell you enough of how inspired I was. Councilman Bailey is very modest in his approach, and he got up at 3 o'clock in the morning to start that, and I only got up at 5 and just had to show up and ladle stuff out, and it was a lot of fun. We got to shake hands with a lot of people, and I think there was 325 pre-committed people to attend that meeting. The city staff was there. I appreciate staff being there. The message from Dave was really important, and I think it's one of those things that we lose sight of. And you get all excited that this is a Major League Baseball player, and he's going to tell us about baseball. And you all know my thoughts about baseball, and yet what he really wanted to do was tell us that we needed to get the spirit of religion back into our daily day activities, is what the real gist of his conversation was. And he's right. And he's gone clear to the top and seen the wonderful things that can happen in this life from hard work. And then he's seen the bottom of where he had his arm amputated and his left arm for that. That was his power, his using arm. And so it was just a really good example of good choices in life and how we had to take defeats and make them into successes. And in doing that, we had this whole room of people, and Mike Bailey had already provided the meal, and then he was willing enough, out of the $91,000 that we raised, $10,000 of it was Mr. Bailey's. And Mr. Bailey is there like that on almost everything we do. And so I just appreciate what he does. I appreciate the council for what you guys do. You show up, you participate, you aren't silent. You're at all the activities, and I appreciate that. And that's what it takes to make that work. And the city of Riverton is an amazing spot on the ground. It has a lot of people that care, and that's a lot of money to raise in one breakfast. And it was well put together, and they had it set up so that we couldn't get out unless we paid to get out. And it was a really good operation. And so I appreciate what they did, and I look forward to what they can do for our youth. And I think that with those organizations, hopefully the chief isn't going to have to chase down 30 cars in 5-6 years from now. And so I think that is our future, and we need to invest in that future. The other thing that we did was we had the RETA meeting, comes around once a month, and we go out to the meeting. It starts at 7, and we discuss a lot of economic things in that meeting. But this time we had a local success story, and Legacy Molding, which I don't know that a lot of people know even where that is. It's kind of silent and quiet in Riverton. It's in the old Alco building. Thank you. Brain froze there for a second. The old Alco building, and they produce many parts. And he told us in that meeting that if you have received an injection in North America, a part of that came from Riverton, Wyoming. And he has the entire United States market. He also, this last year, got all of the European, all of the UK. And he is picking up the Southeast Asia contract for those supplies. Right here in Riverton, Wyoming, is doing all of that. And so lots of times we think we're just a farm town out in the middle of Wyoming. We have great potential to affect the world. And it was just fun to hear that success story from Rob Wright came to town, and he's been a close friend of mine for all those years. He came to us from Laramie, out of a manufacturing plant in Laramie, to work for StarTech. And took over the molding division of StarTech, and instead of letting that go down and losing that revenue, he's built it up to over 50 employees in Riverton. And he pays $15 an hour is the lowest wage he pays. And so it's a real success story all around that. And that's possible. And he pointed out to us that manufacturing used to go offshore, but now with the pandemic that we've had, people have realized the importance of keeping manufacturing locally. I don't know that we'll see shoe shops open back up, but he's right. We don't, that's part of our supply problems right now in the world. And so it was a good conversation. EDGE is a fantastic committee that we have. So is Force, so is the airport, so is our tree board. EDGE has already gone through 7 different groups for funding. Our asks are over, what are our asks? $2 million. And we got $600,000 to work with. So there we are again, right?
Never easy decisions.
And so they're doing a great job, and I want to commend them for what they're doing. And so they had 2 meetings this last month that we were in, and we'll come together, and soon this table will see their suggestions. Megan goes to that meeting, and Tony goes to that meeting, I go to that meeting. It takes a lot of effort to put those things together, and I really do appreciate staff for what they do. The soccer tournament is outstanding, and I think it's just a great example of when we get together and work together, we can do amazing things. And so I just can't say enough. Thank you for the citizens of Riverton for what you do, for the hard work that you put in, the willingness you have to support the community. We just have a really great community, and our law enforcement is outstanding. That's why we're fully staffed. Our chief does a wonderful job. His staff does a great job. I just think that we're in a great position. I'd like to point out, because no one else will, and we don't toot our horns really like we ought to, we cut $1.3 million out of last year's budget going into the pandemic, I believe. And we find ourselves in the same problem now. And Tony tells me that we balanced the general fund with slashes, and we're going to have to slash again. So when you get out there and get negative about government, the city of Riverton is doing their part, and we are not spending outside of our means. We're staying inside our means, and we're cutting back in our means, which means sacrifice in the water department. It means sacrifice in sanitation. It means sacrifice in distributing and collections. I mean, we just have done a wonderful job maintaining Riverton on less money than we had been spending. And so I think that goes right back to staff and their willingness to look and to operate. But also, the city of Riverton needs to be commended because you didn't give up. You still paid your sales tax. You still paid your usage tax. We still are making money in the city of Riverton. And that is to be commended. And we didn't sit back and say, oh, woe us, and we can't afford anything and we won't do anything. We were able to go out and to raise those revenues and keep ourselves going. And that reflects right into our half-cent tax, which is going to make a big difference all around. And our airport is functioning. Just like Mia said, it's outstanding. It's doing a wonderful job. And you need to keep using it. And that's the secret to success, is that we've got an airport, let's use it. Plan when and how you can use it, and get up there and help us support that facility. I am so pleased to have a new councilman on the dais, and Corey was a wonderful councilman, and we could count on him, and I know that Dean will be the same. And I hope that we can get him broke in, or he can break us in, whichever it takes, and get him the committee assignments that he would like to be on, and make that work. And I appreciate all the council. I'm able to call all of you and have a conversation and discuss problems and things that we need to do, and that's what makes it work so smoothly. I appreciate every one of you. So thank you very much.
Yeah, one other little thing, Rich. I was in a meeting here a couple weeks ago, and I had a lady say that she tried to get a reservation to fly out of Riverton, and the flights were full. So I would expect that we will have another midday flight, hopefully in the near future, to help pick up some of that capacity that we need. And it was for, she's flying out this week, and she had to go to Casper to fly out. So that's a good sign for the airport that they're filling the flights, so.
We really do appreciate it. And that's from staff's hard efforts, it's from the council's hard efforts, and more importantly, we represent the citizens of Riverton, and it's from their hard efforts and what they're doing. We really do appreciate the citizens. Staff have anything to add?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
Radio? Nothing beating you down? We appreciate you sitting through our meetings. Kyle?
When you mentioned legacy molding, anyway, they are taking over 1/3 of the Alco building. So that the clothing supplier that shut down, they're utilizing his plus the space next door. And that's what we need.
And you're exactly right about that. That building is empty space, and they've expanded now, and those 50 employees are he has opportunity to put in, he currently has 13 workstations. A single workstation for him is a little over $150,000 for the machinery that sits in that space, and he's got 13 of those, and he's going to expand, he hopes, to 22. And so we're just real fortunate. And that's just one success story. We have a lot of them. We really do. We just have a lot of them. And so we appreciate that opportunity to toot our horn just a little bit, and those local people. And I think we're going to be real pleased with the information that comes out in the next little bit. If there's no objections, we will stand adjourned at 9:45.